Alrighty, so this is some pretty big news that I wasn't expecting to hear, but Norman Reedus talked about his reaction to finding out that the show was ending, and that was pretty shocking. So before we go any further, I do have to warn you for spoilers for The Walking Dead season 10 finale, but that is basically it. I'm not going to talk about it too in depth, but I may mention things that did happen, and I know a lot of people are waiting to watch it, at least a couple more days or something like that. I'll stop warning people for spoilers after like maybe Friday, I think. As of Friday, I'll stop doing that because it is kind of annoying in every video to have to keep warning people for spoilers when it's been like months, sort of thing. So I only do it because I do get comments sometimes of people getting mad that I spoiled this. Like, that's really the only reason why. But I do have to cut it off. If you haven't watched it by Friday, then, you know, if you're a big fan, you're watching these videos, like, you're going to watch the episode when it comes out. If you can't catch it then, maybe a couple days later. That's kind of, you know, I have to cut it off somewhere. So also, if you are new here, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want more Walking Dead content like this. If you haven't checked out my review yet for the finale, like my spoiler review for the finale, just go check it out on the channel. I posted it a couple days ago. If you want to hear my thoughts on World Beyond, I did actually post that because I know a lot of people were asking me to post a review for that, and I did. I posted that yesterday, so that should be like the latest video, or maybe it was like 2 videos ago. Anyways, the big news here that I want to talk about is the fact that Carol and Daryl were actually meant to leave The Walking Dead, and Norman Reedus was very surprised when he heard that The Walking Dead was ending. So there's a lot to talk about here. First of all, I got this from comicbook.com. I don't know where they got this, but this is where I'm getting it. So I'll leave a link down below if you actually want to check out the article and read everything in full. But Norman Reedus was surprised to hear that The Walking Dead was going to be ending like in 2 years. He had no idea that it was going to be ending. He wasn't told anything beforehand. So I think a lot of people were surprised. I don't know how Gimple or Angela Kang felt about it, because I don't know if they've talked about it yet. Maybe they already knew, kind of thing. But Norman Reedus, Melissa McBride, I'm sure, and a lot of other people, all the actors and stuff like that, and actresses, they had no idea that the show was going to be ending in 2 years. They had absolutely no idea, because the original plan was for the show to keep on going. But I guess those rumors about a Daryl movie were actually true, where Daryl was going to leave the show for a little bit and then come back, like leave the show for a season or 2 to go do a movie or something, then come back. That was actually all true, because that was the original plan. Could you imagine how that would have played out? Now, actually, I think what we should focus on here is, one, I guess AMC really they were the ones that decided, you know what, we're just going to end the show. And thankfully they decided that, because it just made the show a ton better. It really did. The fact that we're going to get this end date, and the fact that we're going to conclude the story and still continue on with the spinoffs. Like, if they were ending this and they weren't going to continue on, I would have been just overall sad. But because they're doing this and doing a spinoff, that I'm actually excited for. That I really, really can't wait for, because that's just going to be, it's going to be the Walking Dead sequel show, right? So, like, I'm so excited for that, because they're going to be able to get away from the Hilltop and Alexandria, and they can focus more on, I guess, what makes the story just really amazing. I think they're going to go back to New Mexico, so they'll be going more south, and who knows, maybe they'll take a trip through Atlanta. I think that'd be really cool. Imagine if they return to Atlanta, return to Herschel's farm and stuff like that. Like, you can actually do things like that. I think that would be really cool. Even go walk through the field and see if Shane's body is still there. Like he'd probably be so decayed, but like, imagine, it'd be pretty nuts to see. But like, you could do things like that if you actually wanted to with these 2 characters, because you don't have to bring the whole cast with you, right? You don't have to explain why you're leaving Alexandria and why all that's happening. You're just going. This is the story now. It's Daryl and Carol. So yeah, on AMC's part, this was very smart, very, very smart. And I think The Walking Dead is going to be way more successful now because of this. Because apparently Carol and Daryl were meant to leave The Walking Dead and then I guess return a couple seasons later. Like, how would that have played out? Like, they would have left, which would have meant that we would be watching The Walking Dead without Carol and Daryl. So I guess Negan, like, he would probably be there. Maggie would be back, so like, that would be fine. But like, no Carol and Daryl? I guess that is probably why they kept Father Gabriel alive, right? Because you need more recognizable faces later on when that does happen. Which I don't know. To me, I don't know how that would have went down, because that, like, Carol and Daryl are definitely huge reasons why I watch The Walking Dead. I really do watch for Negan as well. But like, if Carol and Daryl aren't there, I don't know how I could watch, because he's a really nice addition to the show, and he can definitely be a lead of the show, but you need those other characters there for sure. He can't be the only one. And I actually think they should focus on Negan actually being the lead of the show, because Daryl doesn't work as a lead. Like, he really works as a side character. That's where he's really, really useful. Like, that is how I'm picturing the character all the time, is that he is a side character. I'm not really picturing him as like the leader or the ultimate lead of the show. I picture him as just like a side character, and everyone else is kind of like, to be honest, the one character I do picture as the lead, actually it's like two characters. It's Gabriel or Judith. Gabriel, because he's really he's like the leader of Alexandria. So I kind of picture him, being the actual lead. And also Judith, because like she's Rick Grimes's, well, I know technically Shane's daughter, but she's Rick's daughter, right? So she's a legacy character, blah blah blah, all of that. She's kind of a lead in my opinion, but like I really don't know how this would have played out. Actually, you guys can let me know down below, like, how do you think this would have played out? Do you think fans would have been happy to see Daryl and Carol leave for a spinoff? Because I know a lot of people were upset when they heard of that Daryl Dixon movie, because fans don't want people to be taking characters away from the Walking Dead show. It feels like, I think people are okay actually with the idea of these spin-offs. It's just stop taking away from The Walking Dead. And so the fact that it's ending, you're going to keep these characters here, you're going to conclude the story, and then just go do whatever the hell you want with them. I think that's it's smart. I personally am very glad they're not doing this, because I think this would have backfired. I don't think fans would have been too happy. I know for me, I would have had a really hard time watching, because I don't know, like, at that point, because they probably would have left after the Commonwealth arc, right? At that point, I don't really know what the plan would have been. Like, would they have been on their own and just like, it would have been original material because the Commonwealth arc would be over. But I don't know how exciting it would have been, because like you're kind of watching for those season 1 characters, and if they're gone, we have like no season 1 characters on the show. The show is just completely different. And that was my big worry for the show, was that it was going to end with no season 1 characters around. And you just had all these other characters. Like, at least now when the show ends, you're going to have characters from season 1 here. And there could be a chance that Rick appears in the very final episode, right? To conclude the Walking Dead story. That's just definitely, it's very smart on their part to do all this. And then they would have came back, which would have been weird. So for like a season or two, the show would just be where, right? Like, what arc would you be dealing with? And why would they have left? Probably to go find Rick, which would mean that I guess they would have been in the Rick movie, I guess. Maybe that was the plan. They would go search for Rick and maybe would be in the first or second Rick movie and then come back, but come back without Rick. I don't really know what the plan was there. I would like to learn more about this. All we know is that the plan was for Carol and Daryl to actually leave The Walking Dead and then at some point come back later. And Norman Reedus seemed to be pretty shocked when he heard that the show was ending, because he thought that was the plan. So they really were planning on this show going on for a long time. Like, it seems like no one really knew. Like, I think everyone was surprised when they heard that The Walking Dead was ending. It seems like, I think like Robert Kirkman was surprised. I think they were all surprised when they heard that The Walking Dead was ending. And because Kirkman never really told anyone that the comic book was ending, you can tell that this really wasn't the plan. The plan was to keep the show on probably for a lot longer, but because Kirkman ended it when he did, they had to end a lot sooner. And then they were still going to continue on a little bit, but then AMC ultimately decided, you know what, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to finish the comic story, but then we're going to do a Daryl and Carol spin-off show, a sequel show, just continue their story, do some other spin-offs and things like that, do the Rick Grimes movie, but like that would be the future, right? And I think this is so smart, because now, like the legacy show, like the main show will be done. The original show will be done in 2 years. But if fans want, they'll watch the Daryl and Carol show. They're not forced to watch the main show do all these crazy things. They can go watch these spin-offs if they want to. The Rick movie is going to create a lot of hype, and it's just, this is overall smart. And just watch the interest in Walking Dead spike up like crazy after that Rick movie. Like, as soon as that is released, it's going to be nuts. Which I think it's perfectly timed, because the show's probably going to end, and then the Rick movie will come out like afterwards. So it's going to renew interest right after the show's ending, right? But overall, this was a shock to me. I wasn't expecting to hear this. I thought that everyone knew for a while that the show was going to end with 12 seasons or something like that, 11 seasons. And no, I guess this wasn't really the original plan. They were going to continue. So a lot of us saying that the show was going to end in 12 seasons, and then they condensed it a little bit. I guess maybe that was a plan, but there seemed to also have been a plan that Carol and Daryl were going to leave to do something else, and then, return at some point. Which also, when you look back at that Melissa McBride and Norman Reedus deal that they made like a couple years ago, like that was supposed to extend to season 12, because that deal was, we could use you in any Walking Dead property that we wanted to. So I guess that this is a part of that deal, right? Was that they were going to leave the show, go do a spinoff thing, and then come back. So I guess that made a lot of sense. So like this was a plan for a while now. Carol and Daryl were meant to leave The Walking Dead and then return. That's just so crazy to me. But post all your thoughts down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about all of this. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to be a subscriber if you do want more Walking Dead content like this. Remember, Comic-Con is coming up in just a couple of days. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.